In this video, we're going to go over attendance reporting and pulling reports either for payroll or for just weekly or monthly attendance reports. To do that, what you're going to want to do is go to the attendance module. By default, you're going to go to your clock in, check in screen, but what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the reporting tab and go ahead and select your reporting. By default, you're going to get a bar chart that just shows the total number of hours worked broken up by day and your employees. So this just gives you a hierarchy view. You can change your chart types here if you'd like to see a little bit more of an aggregate data. You can also leave it as a bar chart and do a stacked chart, which will stack all of the employees across a single bar per day. But most of the reports that we run is going to be through your pivot chart. So if you come over here to the right-hand side and select the pivot option, it's going to give you this view. By default, you're going to have the months across the top, and it's going to break it out by day and employee across the side. But most of the time when I'm running reports, I want to see just month or week or whatever by my employee. So I'm just going to hit this to remove it, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it again to break it out by employee. This will show me my employee numbers right now by default by month. So if I'm going to run payroll, a lot of times I will actually, instead of do it by month, I'm going to hit the total sign to remove it. And then I'm going to hit the total sign one more time. I'm going to do check-in by week. This will give me employee hours by each employee by the week. You have your hours worked, and depending on your configurations and settings, you may have extra hours that they have worked, or you can go ahead and turn that extra hours column off if it's not a feature you're using. And then you'll see here the total hours worked for that week and the total hours over here for each of the employees. You can also break this down further if you want to click on the week and then go to check-in and add day. You can now see everything broken out by the day, and you can expand each of your weeks. And now you'll have a report of all the employees' time per day grouped by week. And this is normally the report a lot of times I'll use for payroll. And you can go ahead and download this, clicking this button, and it'll give you an Excel download of that. However, if you're running payroll, obviously, as you go throughout the year, you're going to have a lot more weeks in that year. So normally I will come in here and add a date-based filter. So I can go over here and say add custom filter, and I want my check-in to be between two dates. So now I can come over here and say, well, my payroll date runs from the 12th through the 25th, and I can go ahead and select those. Now, in this case, there was no data, so that was a bad example. Let's go back and let's see, we got November is what data is in the system. So I can come in here, we got a little bit in January, but I can do a check-in between, we'll say, January 1st and January 14th and say apply. And now that will filter all of my data to only give me the hours within my pay period. And you can see them broke out by employee. So now I would take this, verify everything looks correct. If there's any issues like, well, we didn't have a lot of pay data or something that looks wrong, like I've got an entry or some entries here, but it's 0. If you actually click on that day, it will open up a list of all of the worked hours. So I can see here that they checked in and then they almost immediately checked back out. So that could be for various reasons, but you can also come in here and talk to that person and verify their time card and say, well, that was actually incorrect. And I want to come in here and change the checkout time. And I could come in here and update it to the time that they actually checked out. And now if I go back to my report, it will update and show the days that they actually worked. The other thing you can do is you can also save some of these as a favorite. So the key is when you're creating favorites is you don't typically want to save your date ranges unless it's like for the entire year, or else it'll actually save that filter in your favorite. So what I can do is I can remove my date filters, and I can come in here and I only want to show it by week, and I'm going to remove that and only show it by employees. So this is the way that I want it to display. Now I should be able to come in here and I can do a save current search. I can give it a name. So we'll just call it attendance analysis 2. And you can select use by default, which means that every time you come to this report, this is the view you're going to get. Or you can share it with all users, but it will not be your default. If you want to do both, you just have to save it twice. I'm going to go ahead and say use this by default and save it. Okay, so now this is my new default view. If I go to anywhere else in the system, like I'll come to a different list. If I come to my reporting and go to my pivot chart, I now get this as my saved view. And now from here, I don't have to reset that up. I can come in and change my check-in dates for my payroll or whatever report I want to run. I can filter it. And if you want to expand it by day, you can also expand it at that time or leave it not expanded. And I could go ahead and download this list. So that's the nice thing is you can create and set these up the way you want them, and it'll save it as a favorite. If you saw earlier, sometimes when I go back, it would reset to the previous view. If you go through and create a favorite with a view that you like, it should stay in that design, in that orientation for you, so you don't have to go back and reselect employee like I was originally in the video. So that's pretty much it. You can also filter based on other data as well. You've got a handful of other filters. You can filter by department. You can also group by department if you wanted to do that first and say, hey, show me my departments. And then within each department, show me my employees. And you can expand those out. So you can do a lot of custom grouping and analysis from there. But that should give you a basic overview and feel of the system.